Hello and welcome back to the second video on the RoseEd YouTube channel. Thanks for all the support on the first one, it did alright. On to the next. So today we are going to be talking about Arsenal. Now what's going on at Arsenal? Where do I bloody start? Currently sit 9th in the Premier League, which, you know, is pretty abject for them, isn't it really? To add to their misery, they have also just been knocked out of the Europa League, meaning they didn't get to the final, and they got knocked out by Unai Emery, Villarreal manager, their ex-manager. That's got to sting. That's got to sting. I think, in my experience being a football fan, this is probably the worst I've ever seen Arsenal, just in terms of the general mood around the club and what they're producing on the pitch as well. So where to start? What do Arsenal actually do to improve their current situation? Well, a lot. There is a lot. They are in a deep, deep mess, and I would not want to be an Arsenal fan right now. No offence to Arsenal fans out there. What I will say is the Arsenal fan base have actually been really good throughout all this. You know, they're not a deluded fan base in my experience. They know their level, they know what's going on with the club, and they care about the football more than they care about the stupid tribalism that's involved with football. They just want their club back because, let's face it, Arsenal are one of the biggest clubs in the world in terms of brand name, but at the moment they are playing like a mid-table club, which is not good enough. It's not good enough, is it really? And if I was an Arsenal fan, I would be absolutely fuming at what's going on. So first of all, we'll start with the manager. Do we think Mikel Arteta needs to be sacked? Do I think he needs to be sacked? Probably, and I'll tell you why. So Arteta has managed 56 games in the Premier League at the time of recording, just beaten Chelsea, and I've got the stats up here. He has got 25 wins, 13 draws, and 18 losses, which works out at 88 points, which is 1.57 points per game. When you compare that to his predecessor, Unai Emery, he actually managed 1.71 points per game. Unai managed 51 Premier League games, he got 25 wins, which is the same as Mikel Arteta, 13 draws and 13 losses. And he was sacked. As well as this, Unai Emery did actually manage to reach a European final. I know it was terrible, and they got absolutely stomped on by Chelsea, but at least he managed to reach it, you know. But to be perfectly honest, I think sacking Arteta and getting someone else in isn't really going to do the world of good at the moment. I think they need to have an institutional change. I draw a lot of parallels between Arsenal and Man United, to be honest. Arsenal had Arsene Wenger, who ruled them for years. 1996, I believe, is when he took over. And of course, Man United had Sir Alex Ferguson, who was in charge for years as well. And we both saw problems with them once they left, didn't we, really? Man United haven't actually won a title since Fergie left. They've been in the mud, pretty much, and they're just now starting to find their feet under Ole, and they'll probably be challenging for the league next season. And that's a testament to Ole's management, because he has actually been very good for them, even though he's received so much criticism. Unfairly, in my opinion, as well. It's a similar situation with Arsenal, because Arsene Wenger left, and since Arsene Wenger left, they've been going just downhill. They've got a whole lot worse. And I think there's differences with the situation, actually. First of all, there was problems with Arsene Wenger before he left. I mean, we all remember the Wenger out brigades. We all remember everything that was going on. We remember how prevalent Arsenal Fan TV became. DT became the face of a lot of the Wenger out stuff. I agreed. I think he should have left before he did. I think he should have left after the FA Cup final against Hull. That would have been a good send-off, to be fair. Whereas Sir Alex Ferguson left on the account of just general health conditions and stuff. If he was still in charge of Manchester United, they probably would have won more titles knowing him, because he was absolutely insane as a manager. I'll go on record to say Sir Alex Ferguson is the best Premier League manager, better than Pep Guardiola. I mean, it's pretty obvious at the moment. Pep's got a long way to go. But yeah, going back to Arsenal anyway, since they've replaced Arsene Wenger, they went with Unai Emery, who none of them got on with, and they sacked him, even though he's got a better record than Arteta. Interim manager Freddie Ljungberg did pretty poorly, but he's very well liked amongst the fans, so they cut him some slack. They knew the situation I was in, and now they've gone to Mikel Arteta, who has done worse than Unai Emery on stats. Now, I have noticed a few positive changes with Arteta. It's not been all bad. So first of all, he rectified their terrible defence. They've actually got a relatively good defensive record, but unfortunately that has come at a cost of their really good attack, actually. The Arsenal I knew, the identity that they had was really exciting, free-flowing attacking football. I mean, just go and look at Jack Wilshere's goal against Norwich. I mean, that just blew my mind. And that thing that summed them up under Arsene Wenger a lot of the time. They're just an exciting team to watch. I've been to the Emirates a few times, actually. I've watched them at the Emirates, and it was a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun to watch. Now, though, because they've had to shore up their defence, that has come at the cost of their attack. I mean, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, he's on 350 grand a week, and He's not producing. He really isn't producing. And I don't think it's all his fault. He's predominantly a goal scorer. He's not really much of a creator, is he? And because there's no cohesion between the midfield and the attack, in my opinion, he's not really getting the service. Nicola Pepe, that's another one, another talented attacker that's just not fitting in well. Don't get me wrong, I think he's good, but the 70 million price tag they paid for him that was ludicrous, really. It's bad business. Arsenal's main source of attacking flair is coming from Emil Smith-Rowe, Gabriel Martinelli and Bukayo Saka. Whenever I watch them, they're the only ones that seem like they're hungry, that they're interested. I'll also say Lacazette as well. I think Lacazette's been pretty good this season. I know he's got a lot of critics, but every time I've watched him, I think he's been okay. But is it worth it? Is it worth keeping Arteta just for this defensive football that's not really getting them anywhere? I personally don't think so. Now, the parallels I draw with them and Man United are obviously Wenger and Sir Alex Ferguson left, and since then they've struggled. And I think they've struggled in the account of, men in suits that have no footballing brain making big decisions that are obviously not going to come off because they don't have the footballing brain. I mean, look at Ed Woodward. He's leaving at the end of the season, but some of the decisions he's made, some of the people he's employed, some of the transfers that he's sanctioned, I just think they've been shocking, really. No wonder Man United fans are happy that he's leaving. And you look to Arsenal, again, it's men in suits. I mean, look at Raul Sinelli. He's left now on the account of the Pepe transfer being a little bit dodgy and him fiddling a little bit money, allegedly. He claims that's not true, but that is what's been alleged against him. And now they have this guy called Vinay. Yeah, so Arsenal have a hierarchy of a guy called Vinay and a guy called Edu, who's the technical director. And Edu was the one, I believe, that helped, recruit Arteta, get him in. And it hasn't been a decision that's paid off. These decisions are not paying off for Arsenal. So, what do I think needs to be done? Well, I think Arsenal needs a complete institutional overhaul. Obviously, I do think the Kroenke should go, but the likelihood of that happening, in my opinion, is very low. So I'm going to play out a scenario where the Kroenkes stay, but the institution of Arsenal changes below them. So first of all, I think they need to cut out these men in suits that don't have any sort of knowledge of football, in my opinion. Like Edu, Vinay, Raul Sinelli, they had Ivan Gazidis. These guys, they're not well liked. I've had a lot of criticism about them from Arsenal fans, and I get it. I think it's totally justified criticism. If you look at Liverpool, they have Jurgen Klopp and Michael Edwards who are sanctioning the transfers. Now, Michael Edwards is absolutely brilliant. He goes against the stereotype of men in suits, not knowing what they're doing, because he is brilliant. He has got a really good statistical eye for players, and he's really good negotiating as well. And him and Klopp just go hand in hand, and their recruitment at Liverpool is brilliant. You only have to look at the change in transfers from Michael Edwards in comparison to his predecessor, which was, I believe, he's called Ian Ayre. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I remember him at Liverpool, and he sanctioned some terrible transfers. Also, I think if you're going to get rid of these people, you have to replace them. I would replace them with just footballing minds. I think it's important to get the feel-good factor around Arsenal again, because it will translate on the pitch. It will. I mean, you've already seen talks of Thierry Henry, Bergkamp, Vieira getting involved in a potential takeover with Spotify creator Daniel Ek. But what if these guys could just go and work at the club anyway, irregardless of the takeover? If you put Thierry Henry in a prominent position within the club, if you put Vieira, Bergkamp, if you had them calling the shots, if you had them sanctioning the transfers, if you had them working with teams of scouts to scout these players, they've been there, they've done that, they're the Invincibles, Arsenal, they're Arsenal royalty. They are the ones that need to be sanctioning the transfers, and the fans will love them. The fans will love them for it regardless, won't they? I mean, they've got such a big legacy at Arsenal. They will be left with making a few mistakes. They're relatively new to the managerial game. I know Thierry Henry hasn't had a great time in management, neither has Patrick Vieira. But, at Arsenal, if they're doing a bit more of the behind-the-scenes role, recruiting the players, talking to the players, helping coach them perhaps as well, I think that'll be a good idea. You saw Patrice Evra say that Thierry Henry went round his house and turned off the TV when he saw Granit Xhaka playing for Arsenal, saying that he can't believe that he's the captain of Arsenal now. I mean, if you're so concerned about that, Thierry, if you're so critical of Xhaka, here's an opportunity for you. Go and stamp your authority on Arsenal. Go and recruit the players that you want to see at Arsenal, because it's your beloved club and they're in free fall at the moment. They need you. If you look at Man United now, you look at them having the success that they're having. Who have they got manager? They've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, an ex-legend, because he is a legend. He's a legend of Manchester. Mikel Arteta is not a legend at Arsenal. He's a good player. He's a nice guy, really articulate guy, but he's not a legend. Now, we all know that the Cronkies don't really like spending the money that they receive from Arsenal. So in terms of doing it on a budget, like I'm expecting to see them, I think it's just going to be a case of, clearing out the wage budget, maybe recruiting a bit of money here and there, maybe investing in some, youth prospects instead. Leicester have signed a player from Lille for 25 million today. It's looking like, and he's been very good for Lille this season as well. And they're looking like they could win Ligue 1. So, there are players out there. I mean, let's not forget, Arsenal spent 32 million on Xhaka in the same window that Chelsea spent 28 million on Kante. I mean, you can buy players for that amount of money that turn out to be prosperous talents. In terms of going forward, I mean, they definitely need to make sure Emile Smith-Rowe signs a new contract. They've already got Saka and Martinelli signing new contracts last season, so that's very good for them. I think they need to build their teams around Martinelli and Emile Smith-Rowe, Bukayo Saka, because they are the future of Arsenal, in my opinion. As for Aubameyang, it's a tough one. He's obviously a very good striker. They probably need to play into his hands a bit more, or into his feet, for lack of a better way of putting it. He's not doing well, is he? And if you want to build your team in that way, fine by me. But Aubameyang in that system just doesn't work. He needs more. I mean, they have Aubameyang, Lacazette and Pepe. These are three players which they spent big money on, some more than others, and they pay big money, and they're not really delivering. They're not value for money, are they? So I think they need to shift one of them on, and I think it will be Lacazette. If you have an attacking line of Pepe, Aubameyang and Martinelli, if you give that attacking line to Klopp, I believe that he gets a lot more out of them than Arteta does. I mean, they're brilliant players, they really are, but they're just not gelling. They're just not gelling together. I mean, Martinelli has not been given anywhere near as much game time as he deserves, because he's brilliant. He really is brilliant, and he needs to be starting a lot more often, because every time he comes on, I feel like he can do something. And as soon as he starts to get a bit of form, I think they bench him. So I'm not really too sure what Arteta's thinking is on that one, but I think next season he needs to feature more. Another player which I think they could get, in terms of value for money, is Hassan Ouar. It's rumoured that Lyon are happy to let him go for around the £30 million mark. And if so, he's a very good advanced midfielder. I've watched him play a bit. I can't say I've watched him loads, but every time I watch him play, I think he's been really good. And I've been looking at his stats a bit more, looking at his heat maps and stuff, and he's got very good stats over the past few years as well. It's not just this season. To my knowledge, he's been okay this season. I'm not too sure, but I know the previous seasons when I actually watched him, I thought he was really good. So if you could pick up a Hassan Ouar for 30 million, you've got Partey in midfield, you've got Aubameyang up front, you've got Pepe, and you've got Martinelli on the wings. That is a very, very good team. That team should be challenging for at least top 4. It really should. Defensively speaking, if you've got Kieran Tierney left back, and you sign a good right back, I think that's very strong fullbacks as well. Very strong fullbacks. In terms of a right back, they definitely do need one, because Maitland-Niles sometimes played there when he was there. He's now out on loan at the moment, but he's not really the best right back in my opinion. Hector Bellerin, he doesn't seem to be very popular. I think he's not even that bad. He gets a lot of hate, but his crossing ability isn't very good, and he's lost quite a lot of pace since his injury. And Cedric Suarez, I mean, seemed to be a bit of a weird signing. They seem to have played him left back as much as they played him right back, and I mean, he's all right. I liked him at Southampton. I thought he was good, but he's not quite the quality that you want to have a right back, in my opinion. I think good signings right back. I think Tariq Lamptey from Brighton. I mean, that is an option. He has been injured for a lot of this season, so he has sort of wilted a little bit, but I'm sure he'll be back next season. And he could be quite good. He could be quite a good acquisition for them, because the way he was playing, he didn't look like he's going to be staying at Brighton for long. Max Aarons, he would have been a good one. Norwich have come back up to the Premier League, so I'm not quite sure that'll happen. And also Bayern Munich are apparently in for him, and I mean, Arsenal, Bayern Munich, I know who I pick at the moment. No offence to the Arsenal fans out there. Tavernier from Rangers, he's got very good stats for a right back this season. I can't say I've watched him at all, but statistically speaking, he's been very good. He might be an okay fit for them. And also, finally, I think perhaps a new goalkeeper, because Leno has been flirting with the idea of leaving in a lot of his post-match interviews. And he hasn't been brilliant this season. He's fumbled quite a lot, and I think you look at the impact that Eduard Mendes had on Chelsea. I mean, you need to use these other teams as sort of blueprints. Use their successes as blueprints for how you can build on your own team. Because Arsenal have a lot of good foundations within their squad. They just need to, tighten up around the edges. If they can get Mesut Ozil off the wage bill, if they can get, David Luiz off the wage bill, all these players that should be leaving, in my opinion. El Neni, he's another one. You know, they can reinvest in, you know, good prosperous players. But do you trust Edu as technical director? Do you trust Vinay? Is he called Vinay? Do you trust the recruitment at the moment? Because in the past few years they have signed a few players that, in my opinion, just they're not good enough, really. Not good enough. Another thing is, if you do sign a few better players, then the players around them, you know, will be lifted by that. I mean, Thomas Partey, I think, struggled this season at Arsenal, and it's not purely his fault. He has had 2 injuries, but he's not really playing in a consistent midfield. I mean, one week he's got El Neni, one week he's got Ceballos, one week he's got Xhaka. I mean, you need to have consistency in there. It's always going to be difficult for him coming into a new league, you know, especially during a pandemic as well. But yeah, I think he could be lifted by a few midfield signings, like Hassan Uwar, for example. But yeah, so to sum up this rambling video, because that's what it is. It is a rambling video. I'm actually rambling about rambling now. To sum it all up, basically, I think you need to replace Arteta, in my opinion, or at least maybe reduce his role. Maybe not have him as the, you know, the head manager, but maybe has him as a coach, like he was at Man City, because he's a very good coach. He's a very good coach. He was very good alongside Pep Guardiola. You need to get a manager in with more experience that can handle a club that's going through such a dip. You know, someone that can stabilise them and maybe just lift them up a little bit more instead of bringing them down. And I think you also need to replace the men in suits that are making just poor decisions, because, let's face it, what do they really know about football? If you can get some ex-legends around the club like Man United have done, just to, you know, get that feel-good factor back, you know, maybe build up more of a rapport with the fans, you stand a much better chance, because it translates onto the pitch. Fans will be back next season, and if they're going to watch the same football that they've watched this season, there's going to be a lot of booing. It's going to be bad. I would not want to be an Arsenal player and face the wrath of those Arsenal fans if they play like they have done this season. But yeah, to be honest, what Arsenal need more than anything is they need new ownership. The Cronkies are awful. I really do empathise with the Arsenal fans, and I fully support all the protests that are going on, so long as, you know, they're peaceful and they're respectful. And the message I'll end with this video is, Cronky out. Thanks very much for watching. Leave any comments down below if you've got any opinions on Arsenal as well. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe, drop a like on the video as well. See ya.